Hey guys, so for this floor I uploaded clears using Yuta and Toji. In my 1 through 5 video, I used Hanami, Dii, Gojo, and Yuta. Same thing with Toji, I just switched them out pretty much. Just Hanami, Dii, Gojo, and Toji instead. The reason this works is because Yuta and Toji are very, very strong characters, right? So even having Hanami, who doesn't add any damage, was still good enough. But Red Nobara and Red Yuji don't do enough damage to run with that, at least not consistently, and if they're not, very high awakening and very high investment. So if you have a medium to high investment Nobara or Yuji, as you can see, mine is A2, which is the same damage as A1, grade 14, level 8 skills. My Yuji is very similar, but he's grade 13 and A1. Instead of using Hanami, we can run Domain Megumi to make this a lot easier to clear using these quote-unquote worse red SSRs. So I'm going to show you guys that today. Of course, for Nobara, if you don't have Domain Megumi, you can use JJK 0 Gato instead. You can't do that for Yuji because Gato only debuffs for Curse Tech, but that is an option for Nobara at least. And of course, if none of these burst teams work for you guys, you can always go to Red Panda Gaming's channel and look at his stall teams for the limited floor guides, because I think he stalled every single one of them. The reason we're not really bringing a ult gauge gain recollection is because the buff from Unity is also reduced by this boss mechanic, right? So you actually don't really end up getting much ult gauge from Unity anyways. And by what mechanic I'm talking about this one here. Everyone gets this weakening, right? Decreases buff effect by 80%. So yeah, Unity barely does anything for this stage. Okay, we're gonna keep stacking nails on Nobara. We want Toge to die here. We need at least 3 crits out of the first 4 turns from Gojo in order to get our ult up by turn 5. So as long as you crit 3 times in turns 1 through 4, then you're gonna be okay. We're not going to debuff immediately, we're going to wait until turn 5. That's when we'll start debuffing. Okay, we got our 3rd crit, so now this 4th turn we don't need to crit. Now we're going to heal. We're still not going to debuff. The reason we have this ordered like this is because when you want to use Gojo and Megumi's ult, Megumi has to go second, because otherwise Gojo cancels Megumi's domain. So Megumi's domain actually lays down a domain, but Gojo's domain doesn't lay down a domain. Gojo's ult just puts a debuff on the enemies and doesn't lay down an actual domain, but it does cancel every other existing domain in the current space. That's why you want to make sure you're using this first, and then using Megumi second, so that he can stay in his domain after this combo ult is over. Now we're going to start stacking nails on this boss here. As you can see, they got the debuffs put on them, and then our Degumi is allowed to lay down his domain after. Now we're going to do one more stack of these nails. As you can see on her skill 1, she gives enemies, a single enemy, plus 3 nail counts for 3 turns, right? We just used it the last turn, so one more turn is going to be our max nail stack counts we can use with this skill before using our skill 3 to pop nails, right? Because it's 3 turns, which means you get to apply them twice if you're trying to use your skill 3 after. We're lining up our burst basically with Degumi's maximum debuff window. This is his first debuff, right? And also Gakuganji, of course. This is Gakuganji's 3rd debuff. This is Megumi's 2nd debuff. And then this is when we're going to activate Pride and then pop all of these nails. He has 10 nails, he has 4. This will kill him off really easily and will do a lot of damage to this boss as well. Now this is Gakuganji's 4th debuff, which is his maximum debuff amount. And then this is Domain Megumi's 3rd debuff, which is also his maximum debuff amount. So this is our highest burst stage, right? Burst churn. Because the boss also still has one more churn of Domain Gojo's debuff remaining here. This is when we ult, and you'll see that it does a lot of damage because we lined up the buffs and debuffs properly. Probably around 5 million would be my guess. Yeah, 4.4. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys pretty much the same thing, but just with red Yuji instead. You can see he's A1, grade 13, nothing crazy in terms of the investment. I never use my SSR crystals on units that, you know, aren't as good. But even without, you can clear stages like this relatively consistently. Same thing. We're just going to be kind of building up towards our burst phase. Again, we need 3 crits in the first 4 turns from Gojo. We're gonna go for a stun, but it doesn't have to hit. Again, we're not debuffing on Gakuganji yet, because we're going to burst later on. Okay, we didn't crit there, so we need one more crit on turn 4. Nice, we got the crit. Now we can start debuffing. You don't have to bring this recollection, as you can see. I don't really need the heal because everyone's gonna die from this point on. But yeah, you can bring whatever you want. Any kind of damage boosting recollection, anything. We're gonna combo ult, and then we're gonna start using skill 3. Yuji skill 3 stacks a buff on himself for 4 turns, right? So you want to make sure that you use it 3 times before you ult, if your rotation can handle it. Our second turn of debuffs with Gakuganji. We're gonna kill off this minion with Gojo. Not quite, but eventually he will die. I don't need to hit him anymore because with Gakuganji and Gojo together later on, we'll finish off this side minion. Now this is our second turn of Degumi's debuffs and our third turn of Gaku's debuff. So this is one turn before our maximum debuff burst phase. So we're going to pop this and use his final skill 3. This recollection is great because it gives him a buff on this turn and also buffs his next turn, which we can use to make our ult a lot stronger. As you can see, you can only activate it on command skills, but it gives you this buff for 2 turns, right? And because I used it last turn, of course it's reduced by this 80% mechanic, but still, I'm getting that massive buff on this turn. So I'm going to ult the boss here. I can use this one on Gojo now to clear out this minion. this clears. Very solid damage, not bad at all. So yeah, if you have Domain Megumi, then you can clear the stages with these two as well, even if they don't have that much investment. Of course, if you have Yuta or Toji, you can do it with pretty much anything. It's a lot easier with them. Hope this is helpful. Bye guys.